Hello and welcome. My name's Jack and welcome to my Nostalgia podcast. This is Jack's Throwback Attack. My next guest is someone who's been a part of children's television for many years, and he's big in the world of sci-fi, from battling Daleks with a baseball bat to teaching us our ABCs and voicing the Beano's most famous character. It's Sophie Aldred. Hello.
Hello. Hi there.
How are you doing today?
Oh, very good, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for taking part. It's a pleasure to be speaking to you. What I always like to do at the start of every interview is kind of go back to the beginning. And what was your path into getting into acting and presenting?
Ah, good question. Well, for some reason, and I don't know really where it came from, I always wanted to be an actress. And when I was about 5, I used to put on plays, and I used to get all the local kids involved and my brother. And then we used to put on plays starring me, directed by me and written by me. Not that I'm a megalomaniac or anything. We used to we used to have audiences, which was Bond's parents, and we used to charge them 6 old pence. And then we'd send the proceeds to Blue Peter, to the latest Blue Peter appeal, because I was a huge fan of Blue Peter growing up. And then it just went on from there, really. I used to do lots of stuff at school. I used to write quite a lot of adaptations, Just Williams stories, and I did an adaptation of a P.G. Wodehouse story, which won a prize at a school drama competition. And then I went to university and did a drama degree. And then after that, it was just like, okay, I really still want to be an actor. And I thought, well, I'd better go to drama school. But I never kind of got round to it because I started working for various children's theatre companies and so on, which I absolutely loved. Went touring around, got my equity card singing around working men's clubs around Manchester. And and so it went on. Got myself an agent. And that was it, really.
Oh, wow, that's quite cool that you just fell into it. And I guess doing the children's theatre became quite useful, really, because you went into doing children's television off the back of that. And Doctor Who as well. Doctor Who, of course, the original series finished 30 years ago this year. I'm sorry if that makes you feel a bit old, but...
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Does it feel that long ago, or does it just feel like 5 minutes ago?
Oh, if you'd said 5 years ago, I would have gone, yeah, or even maybe 10. But 30 years ago, I just cannot believe it. It's unbelievable.
You see, that's the thing with Doctor Who. A lot of people saw you in Doctor Who and then saw you in children's television programmes. I'm kind of the other way around because I was born after the old series finished. So I watched you in all these kids' programmes. Then Doctor Who came back. I started watching the old ones and went, oh.
That's funny.
It was quite surprised.
It was funny, actually, because although Doctor Who was the first telly job I got, simultaneously that year in 1987, I auditioned for a children's programme called Corners. And I was lucky enough to get that because I always wanted to be a children's TV presenter based on my memories of Val, John and Pete on Blue Peter. And I just sent off random CVs and things to various people, including the BBC. And somebody in the contracts department, bless them, they got back in touch with me and said, oh, we're having some general auditions for children's TV, come along. So I did, and I went along and I auditioned in front of a panel of people, about 4 or 5 producers in children's TV at the BBC. And whilst there was nothing, I didn't hear anything then, a month or 2 later, I heard back from one of the producers who said, will you come and audition for a programme called Corners? And what had happened was their previous female presenter had gone on to do some theatre and they were looking for somebody to take her place. So I went and auditioned and I did a piece and then I sang a song and I worked with a puppet and I did a make, which I'd always wanted to do because of the sticky back plastic and in Blue Peter. And sure enough, I got the job. And so I got Doctor Who first, and then I got this job on Corners. But then Corners was transmitted before Doctor Who, even though we'd filmed Doctor Who first. So it looked as though I had done the presenting first, but actually Doctor Who was my very first TV.
Indeed. And I've got two quick questions about Doctor Who. First one, what was the fondest memory that you have of that time on the show?
It was the people, working with this amazing bunch of people. And I suppose the first one, the top of the list, is Sylvester McCall, my doctor, who's still one of my greatest friends. And we just clicked from day one. We just knew that we were going to get on. And he says we get on very well because I laugh at all his jokes. But then I just find him a very funny man. And also very, he's an incredible man. He's forever curious about the world. He asks questions about the world. He loves people. He loves life. He just embraces life to the full. And that's so infectious to be around and so brilliant. And he's got quirky sense of humour, which I love. And he's just always up for fun and having a great time. And that really, that kind of fed through to everybody else surrounding us. So the cast, the crew, it was a joyous time to work on Doctor Who because everybody was just so happy to be there and wanted to kind of be together. So yeah, I loved going away on location because then you really got to know people, and I love getting to know people and finding out all about them. Made some very good friends who I'm still in touch with to this day. So yeah, it was just a wonderful, wonderful job.
Well, that's great to hear. That's really great to hear. And Sylvester does come across as a really nice guy and perfect for playing the Doctor, really. And, of course, the series has been revived in the last 15 years or so. Lots of characters from the original series have appeared on the revived version. Do you think Ace should make a return? And how do you feel she would work with Jodie Whittaker's Doctor?
Oh, I certainly think she should make a return, of course. I'd love to come back and be Ace, but be her middle-aged Ace, like me. Obviously, I'd have to do that. And find out what happened to her, because she's about the only companion that we never knew what happened to her. At the end of the last story, which is called Survival, which is quite a dark story, really, Sylvester and I just walked off together through a bush, and he had a monologue about somewhere the tea's getting cold, and come on, Ace, we've got work to do. So I'd love to find out what happened to her. And we've had a chance to do that in the Big Finish audio adventures, which came soon after the series finished. We started doing audio adventures, and they're all new material. So I am still playing Ace. It's incredible to be playing the same character that I was 30 years ago. But it would be nice to come back and see what Ace makes of Jodie Whittaker. Because she'd be very surprised, I guess, that there was this, the Doctor was a woman. She'd be very happy, I think. And she'd probably miss the, the closeness and the sort of avuncular relationship she had with Sylvester's Doctor. But I think it'd be great to see what had happened to Ace in the intervening years.
Most definitely. That'll be something. That's something that needs to happen, really. They need to have a think and write that in at some point. So we'll move on to some of the children's television programmes. You mentioned Corners. There's a few others as well, which I want to touch upon that you did over the years. A lot of people fondly remember watching Melvin Maureens Music-a-Grams. Was that
my
good fun?
husband says that's the best thing I ever did. It was such fun. I mean, you can tell that fun is a big theme in my life. And I don't think I've ever laughed so much in my life as we did in rehearsals for Melvin and Maureens, because everybody, again, it was a small team and it was a brilliant team of people we were really good friends. So the producer, Alison Stewart, the guy who played Melvin, Matthew Devitt. We had Jonathan Cohen of Play Away and Play School fame, and then all the people around us as well. There were other great directors who came on board. Kay Benbow, who ended up being the head of CBeebies, and yeah, just again having such fun because we were creating. The writer was Simon Davis, who'd been on Corners with me, so I knew him very well. He was a very funny guy, and he knows how to write very good character stuff as well. So it was a dream of a part, really. And when I first got the script, I didn't really know what she'd be like. And I came into rehearsal, and the costume designer, who was this wonderful woman, she came up to me and she said, "Now, I've spoken to my daughter," who was probably about 7 or 8 at the time, "about what she thinks Maureen should wear. And she said, high heels, polka dot skirt, and, sort of mad clothes." And so that's what we went for. And we went and raided the BBC costume department and found all these great, mad clothes from there. And she put them all together in wild ways. And then the makeup department was just forever doing my hair in sort of, beehives and plaits and all sorts, and giving me amazing makeup. And so that really kind of gave me a brilliant start off for the character, this kind of slightly bossy, controlling, but very kind of lovable character. And Matthew and I just got on again so well. We just spent most of our time rehearsing, crying with laughter. It was fantastic.
That's great to hear. That's really nice to hear. And, of course, Melvin Maureens Music-a-Grams was quite an educational show and for preschool children. Is that kind of why you went on to do other educational shows such as Words and Pictures?
Yes, I've always had a passion for working with and for children. I'd been in educational children's theatre and children's theatre in general. That was my grounding, really. And so it was just brilliant to be involved in a programme which was fun, and then with Words and Pictures, educational, and also I think I'd probably have been a teacher if I hadn't have been an actress, and I have done a bit of teaching actually in recent years. And I think anything that can help teachers, anything that can support teachers, is just such a great thing to be doing. And I loved my work on Words and Pictures. I did quite a few series of that, all in different places with different people. But it just felt like I was doing something that was making a difference for people as well, which I think ultimately is what we want to do as human beings. We want to help people if we can, and we want to make a difference to them. And that was my way of fulfilling that, that within myself as well.
Most definitely. And to this day, I still sit there and think, how did the magic pencil work? I think that's one of life's great mysteries.
It's magic.
Yes, it is magic, of course. Silly me. There was another preschool show as well that I remember, and not as many people do because it was on satellite and not on the terrestrial channels, but Tiny and Crew.
Ah, yes.
That was interesting with that big furry character. The person who was inside that suit must have been very hot and very exhausted at the end of every day.
Yeah, shout out to Rebekah Clone, who was inside that costume. And she was a trooper. She never, ever complained. And she was totally brilliant. That came about because I was doing the preschool output on the Children's Channel. And funnily enough, that came about because I lived in Blackheath. I grew up in Blackheath, and down the road from us lived a woman called Carol Chell, who was one of the presenters on Play School for many, many years. And I loved her. I thought she was brilliant. She worked a lot with the great Brian Cant, who was another great presenter on Play School. And Carol, I used to babysit for Carol, and then when I did things like drama school auditions, Carol helped me prepare those. And then she, I didn't know, but she became the sort of producer, director of all the children's program output on TCC, or the Children's Channel, it was originally known. And she decided that she'd like to stop doing that. So she just said to me, do you want to take over from me and present the shows? And I did. And they were kind of quite straightforward, a bit quite like Play School or one of the older programs like that. And then after I'd done that for a while, there was a sort of revamp, and the Children's Channel became TCC. And they wanted me to play a much more sort of character-based part. So we were doing the little inserts between the cartoons and things like that. And then, so we did a wonderful thing called It's Droiby Time. And the Droibies were two little puppets called Dreeb and Droib. And they were played by my wonderful friends, Marcus and Helena, who have a company called Hands Up Puppets. And they are so creative and brilliant. And the idea was that we were on a spaceship called the Rat Can Rocket. And I played this character called Sophie Socket. And I had a little song which went, my name is Sophie Socket. I'm in the Rat Can Rocket. There's something in my pocket. Can you guess what it is? And I would have something ostensibly in my pocket every day, which I would bring up from under the counter. And everybody had to guess. And we pretended that we could hear the audience guessing. And then Dreeb and Droid, the two puppets, I remember Marcus particularly would say crazy things like, have you got a fire engine in your pocket, Sophie Socket? And one day he said, is this an accountant, Sophie Socket? Anyway, that was all to put me off because it was all recorded as live and kind of improvised. And one day I had a mouse in my pocket, a real mouse. And I took this mouse up off the counter, and I was having to hold this poor mouse and to hold on to it so it didn't run off with this sort of live link. It was biting my fingers, and I was having to sort of pretend that everything was fine. So yeah, that was great fun. And then that finished, and then we started doing Tiny and Crew. And they invented this character called Tiny, who is not tiny, who is a Wigosaurus, as you said, in a massive furry blue suit. And we got up to all sorts of things. And then there were the Dog and Arabella as well, who were these two other puppets. It was a great time. Again, brilliant people, fabulous cast and crew, wonderful producers, a lot of whom I'm still in touch with today.
Oh, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. And, of course, as well, you were thrust into the world of presenting live Saturday morning television on WOW with Simeon Corty. Was that really scary to do when you first did that? Because it was all live, it was all a bit new?
Well, I'd done as live on, the Children's Channel for such a long time that it was actually just sort of like, it was bigger, and it was tricky for me because I was doing words and pictures, and I think TCC as well. I was recording in the week, and then I couldn't get down to Maidstone where we recorded WOW until the Friday night. So I had to be briefed very quickly, but I wasn't actually at any of the rehearsals. So for me, it was like just like throwing myself on there and just getting on with it. And that was just such a great education in live telly and of coping with anything that happens. And for example, our very first show, there was a power cut down at the Maidstone studios, and we had Peter Andre flying in by helicopter. So we had to go ahead, and they managed to get a generator up and working. And we went outside so that we wouldn't need lighting. And we interviewed Peter Andre outside in the car park of the Maidstone studios. So yeah, it was a brilliant education in dealing with everything that came your way. But you see, the thing is, you're not alone. when you're presenting a live show. You've got a team of highly experienced people who are there. You're the mouthpiece, but there's the team behind you who are all making it happen. So you just know that it's going to work.
Most definitely. The joys of live television, I guess. And of course, like you say, that was filmed at Maidstone. That was a Media Merchants. You did a lot of work with the Media Merchants, including one of my most favourite shows of all time, Zap. You were Minnie the Mini Magician for the last 3 years of the show. Was that good fun? Because there was a lot of clowning around in that involved.
Oh, it was great fun. Really good fun, yes. And it was lovely because by that time, Neil Buchanan, who I'd worked with on It's a Mystery as well, we presented, I did the first series of that with him. And we were great friends, and Tim as well, who was part of Media Merchants. And so when they asked me to do Zap, I was absolutely thrilled. Just creating this part of Minnie the Mini Magician. I've always loved physical comedy. I think I must have been influenced by Sylvester as well. And it was lovely to play a character who was just so different from me and not me at all, and not learn any lines for a start. No dialogue. It was all in the physical, and I've always enjoyed that. So the camera effect as well, when with the magic, when we disappeared stuff, lining up all the shots, and it was the same crew that I'd been working with on Tiny and Crew, because we did that in Maidstone, and on Wow, and on It's a Mystery. So we all knew each other very, very well. And I think that's a real key. It's becoming a theme, isn't it, really, in what I'm saying? When you know the people and trust them, and you're having fun together, then you can kind of literally make magic, make really great TV, I think. And that really worked for me, to be in a community of people who were really having a lovely time together, getting on really well together, and who were very highly professional, really knew what they were doing,
Yeah, definitely. And like the shows that the Media Merchants came out, we've certainly came across that way. I mean, I loved Art Attack and Zap as well. Zap was my all-time favourite. I mean, just looked so great on screen. I mean, that flying comic, with the characters waving, that looked really cool, that did.
Media Merchants just would come up with brilliant ideas and execute them in a really great way. There was a brilliant team of artists and graphics people behind the show as well, who were very talented creatively, and that was a huge plus for them.
That's really nice to hear. The Media Merchants, as I said, did some wonderful shows back in the day. And there are a few more questions I want to squeeze in about Zap, because it was my all-time favourite show when I was growing up. And the first thing I want to know is, was that big orange frizzy wig really uncomfortable to wear? Because it looked really itchy.
So the wig, I think the thing is, it wasn't so bad. I'll tell you what was the difficult thing, was the heat. And I was actually wearing a fat suit for it. So I had to kind of, it was very sweaty. So I had to sort of take quite a lot of breaks in between to just sort of sit down and sit and breathe in my big suit that I was wearing underneath the costume. So yeah, I can't remember the wig being that bad. I mean, you just get used to it as an actor. You get used to being hot, uncomfortable, and being asked to do crazy things. But you just do it because somehow, I don't know, you just forget the uncomfortableness if you're, it's just what we do.
And can you remember any of the sketches you did? Do any of them stick out as a favourite?
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember any in particular, but what I loved about it, as I said before, was we did a lot of split screen, and that was really good fun. The technical side of it, the sort of working out how to put a flower pot there and then have it disappear, or and having to freeze in exactly the same position while they sort of took a freeze frame of the picture, and then carrying on with the action. That was great to do all the technical stuff. Yeah, that was brilliant.
Did you provide the voice to Minnie, the gibberish?
Yes, I did.
Thought
that was great fun. Yes, I did provide the voice. Yes, we went in afterwards when it had all been edited together. So when the magic had been done and the everything else, I went back down to Maidstone and went into their dubbing suite and put on the the voice. And I'm really glad they asked me to do that, because it was great, because it meant that I got to see them all as well. And it's really nice to actually provide your own voice for your own character. There's something complete about it in a way.
Most definitely. And thank you for answering those questions, because it was my most favourite show growing up.
Oh, that's great. I'm so pleased to hear that.
And one of the cool things as well, which I thought about when I was doing some research last night, is that when you were doing Zap, one of the people introducing the shows on CITV, doing the bits in between the programmes, was Arthur Darvill, who ended up being in Doctor Who years later. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, under his real name, Tom. Yeah, he did.
Really? Was he in the not the broom cupboard, but the...
No, the Birmingham studios, CITV in Birmingham, yeah.
Oh, I see. Oh, how funny. Oh, well, I know Arthur. You know, we've come across each other at Comic-Cons and various things. Lovely, lovely guy. Very talented musician as well.
Most definitely, yes, he did. He used to present CITV alongside Stephen Mulhern and all those back in the early 2000s. Then he disappeared off TV for years, and then he come back on Doctor Who. So a big career jump.
Wow, how amazing. I never knew that.
There you go. I've taught you something there. So we'll kind of move on quickly to like more recent things. I know that you do a lot of voices in a lot of children's television programmes. I mean, talk about a few of those, such as like Dennis the Menace, Tree Food Tom, Bob the Builder, I believe.
Yes, I did the voice for American Bob the Builder, for Muck, the Orange Digger, which was great fun, because they wanted her to be a woman in America. And then Dennis and Gnasher, yes, I played Dennis, which was wonderful, because I'm a huge fan of the Beano, so that was great fun. And my two sons, who were small at the time, they came in and they were allowed to provide sound effects of burping. And that made their day. I mean, it was just amazing. They were recorded burping on Dennis and Gnasher. Yeah, that was great. And again, wonderful people working. I was working with Bob Golding, Teresa Gallagher, Joe Wyatt, and Rob Rackstraw. What an amazing, talented cast of people that they were. And a lovely American director, Frank. We again had a great time. Hard work. We were, and especially doing that voice, because it's quite it's full energy all day, with a voice that's not in my register. So when you're doing a character like that, it can be quite hard on the voice. And then Tree Food Tom, that was amazing. I was Tom in Tree Food Tom, and when I first went in on the first day, I saw the drawings of the character, because they were creating the animation from what we like with Dennis and Gnasher as well, from what we were recording. And I said, oh, that looks a bit like my oldest son. And the producer said, oh, really? We're looking for a live boy to be at the beginning and the end of the credits and the titles for each show. Would he like to audition? And I went home and asked him, and he said, oh, all right, then, I'll go and have a go. And then nobody knew that he was my son. My husband took him, and he auditioned, and he got the part. So that is my real life son, aged about 11, at the beginning and the end of each show. He's now 19, and he has it posted on Facebook on birthdays to embarrass him by various friends. And I do the voice, and it was again a wonderful job. I'm still in touch with the producer, and of course David Tennant was the first Twigs, who's a funny little. It amused me that he was playing my sidekick, and so that was a great Doctor Who connection. And then after that, Mark Bonner, who after the first series, Mark Bonner became Twigs, and just again, I'm so fortunate working with such talented people, such lovely, nice people as well. Great producer, brilliant sound engineers and directors, and there's a guy called Dave Peacock who is the director and sound engineer on a lot of animations. You'll see his name on the credits of loads of programs. He is a genius, amazing guy, and I love working with him. I've done several things with him. So yeah, I'm incredibly fortunate to have worked with brilliant people, talented people. I've learned such a lot from people, and nice people as well, and had a lot of fun along the way.
It's really great to hear and appreciate you sharing all these memories today. So to wrap up, what's the next big project on the cards for Sophie Aldred?
Well, there's a couple of things that I'm not allowed to mention yet. And then there's one thing which is a kind of a spin-off, a character from Colin Baker's era of Doctor Who called Phil, who was a much-loved kind of roguish villain, played by the amazingly talented Nabil Shaban. And there's a script written by Philip Martin, who was the person who originated the character. And we've done it as a DVD. It's called Phil and the Devil Thieves of Arador, and it's coming out in November. And there's a couple of screenings for that. So I'm playing a very different character. I'm playing a character called Mistress Nar, who is a sort of, well, basically a lot of prosthetics and makeup. I was in the makeup chair for at least 2 hours every day with having my prosthetics and makeup done. And you have to watch it to see. It's an incredible job they did on me. Highly uncomfortable, and I really wanted to see what it was like for people who worked with prosthetics and had to go through this. And it was again great though, really good experience working with some wonderful people. So that's coming out in November. So yeah, and in the meantime, lots more voice work, and I never quite know what's going to be coming up, because that's one of the beauties of being an actor. I mean, one of the worrying things is, of course, that you're always thinking, oh no, when am I going to get my next job? And one of the most wonderful things is that the phone or text or email can come in any time that says, would you like to do so and so? And you do.
Sophie, it's been great to hear all these memories, and it's wonderful to hear that, you know, you're still enjoying it and still having a lot of fun along the way. And of course, you're appearing at a lot of conventions all over the UK and across the world as well, which people can see you at as well. And yeah. And if anyone wants to keep up to date with your activities, you can be found on social media.
Yes, absolutely. I try and get on social media from time to time. I usually have a flurry and then I forget about it for a while. So forgive me, I'm not one of these people who keeps up with it brilliantly, but I will try and let everybody know what I'm doing.
Fantastic stuff. Well, Sophie, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's really great to chat to you, and thank you for being interested and asking such great questions.
No problem at all. Thank you. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed that, why not check out the other podcast interviews available? Until next time, see you soon.